There are places in the world where time seems to have stopped, places untouched by modern civilization, places where the past is not only preserved but still alive. One such place is Matera, in southern Italy, a city carved from limestone where human life has persisted for over 9 millennia. As we explore this ancient city, we will uncover stories of survival, hardship, abandonment, revival, and resilience. Matera is not just a city, it is history, frozen in stone, waiting to reveal its secrets. From the Sassi, the famous cave dwellings, to the narrow labyrinthine streets, Matera tells a story that has been unfolding for thousands of years. A story of human ingenuity, adaptation, and endurance. Join us as we step into this city frozen in time and discover how history has lived here for millennia, shaping not only the landscape, but the lives of those who called it home. Matera is one of the oldest continuously inhabited settlements on Earth. Archaeological evidence reveals that humans have lived here for nearly 9,000 years. Long before Rome rose to power, before written history, the soft limestone cliffs of this region became a refuge for early humans. It was here, in these cliffs, that the Sassi, the famous cave dwellings, were first carved. These caves were more than mere shelters. They were homes, communal spaces, and centers of early village life. The caves provided protection from extreme weather, wild animals, and enemies. They were carved not just for survival, but for life itself. Generation after generation, people adapted to the harsh terrain. With primitive tools, they transformed solid rock into complex homes, interconnected through narrow passages and winding stairways. Every carved wall and every stone step tells the story of the people who lived here, of their daily lives, their struggles, and their triumphs. Life in these early settlements was challenging. Families shared spaces with animals. Food had to be stored carefully. Water was collected from wells or rainfall, and every day was a struggle for survival. Yet, despite these difficulties, the Sassi thrived as a community, preserving culture, tradition, and the spirit of human resilience. The caves themselves became a symbol of ingenuity. Some were expanded over centuries, creating multi-level dwellings connected by stone staircases. Niches were carved for cooking, storage, and sleeping. The walls were not only practical, they were homes, sanctuaries, and repositories of history. In Matera, the past is literally built into the stone. The same caves, the same steps, the same pathways remain as silent witnesses to thousands of years of human life. Here, the line between past and present blurs, and the city becomes a living record of history itself. Imagine living in a home with no electricity, no running water, and no modern conveniences. For the people of Matera, this was everyday life. Entire families occupied a single cave, often sharing the space with livestock. Cooking fires provided warmth and light, but also filled the rooms with smoke. The air was heavy, but life persisted. Despite the harshness, a rhythm existed. Children played in narrow streets carved from rock. Women carried water from nearby wells. Men worked the land or maintained the cave structures. Community life was central. Neighbors relied on one another. Festivals were celebrated, and traditions passed from generation to generation. The Sassi were labyrinths of streets and staircases, connecting homes and caves. Some caves were stacked on top of one another, creating vertical villages that climbed the hillsides. Every corner of Matera reflected ingenuity, survival, and the interconnection of human life. Even in the harshest winters, the caves provided shelter. Even in scorching summers, they offered relief. This adaptation allowed human life to flourish in a place where survival was anything but guaranteed. The people of Matera lived in harmony with their environment. The stone walls absorbed the heat of the sun, storing warmth for cold nights. Water was conserved carefully. Families learned to live with scarcity and still create a community filled with culture, art, and resilience. Through the centuries, life in the caves remained relatively unchanged. While the outside world evolved, Matera preserved its way of life. This city was not stagnant. It was alive, enduring, and thriving in its own ancient rhythm. Chapter 3. Poverty and Shame, 20-0-30-0. By the early 20th century, the realities of life in Matera became impossible to ignore. The caves, once a symbol of resilience, were now a symbol of extreme poverty. The damp, overcrowded spaces spread disease, malnutrition was rampant, and child mortality rates were among the highest in Europe. In 1945, an Italian writer described Matera as the shame of Italy. The living conditions were horrific. Families survived in primitive conditions that shocked the world. Modern society had evolved, but Matera remained a relic of the past, struggling to survive in a harsh and unforgiving environment. The government began to intervene. Plans were made to relocate the population to modern housing. What had been home for thousands of years became deemed unfit for human habitation. The evacuation was difficult and emotional. Families had lived in these caves for generations. Every stone wall, every pathway, every step held memories. Yet, under government orders, thousands were forced to leave. The Sassi, silent witnesses to millennia of human life, were abandoned for the first time in thousands of years. When the last families left, Matera fell silent. The streets that had once echoed with laughter, conversation, and life became empty. Dust settled over the stone floors, and the city seemed lost to history. For decades, Matera stood as a ghost city. The abandoned caves became silent monuments to the past. Doors swung in the wind. Dust coated every surface. The narrow streets were empty, the air still. It was as if time itself had left the city behind. Despite the abandonment, the city did not decay completely. The limestone held strong. The structures, carved and maintained for centuries, withstood the elements. Even in silence, Matera was alive, in stone, memory, and history. Visitors began to arrive, curious about this ghost city. Scholars and historians marveled at its resilience, its preservation, and the stories etched into every corner. Matera became a bridge between past and present, a silent teacher, showing how human life had endured against incredible odds. In the 1970s, a new chapter began for Matera. Government and private initiatives sought to restore the Sassi. Artists, architects, and historians recognized the cultural significance of this ancient city. Restoration efforts began to breathe life back into the abandoned caves. The process was slow and painstaking. Stone walls were repaired, debris cleared, and homes transformed into functional spaces. Slowly, Matera began to awaken from its long slumber. Tourists began to visit, drawn by the city's beauty, history, and mystery. The caves were no longer seen as symbols of poverty, but as priceless historical treasures. Matera's revival was not just physical, it was cultural. Art, music, and community life returned. Festivals once abandoned were revived.